I've seen the movie. I can confirm. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is Mark Kerr, and he is incredible in this film. Let's talk about it. What's up, Flick fans? The Smashing Machine. I saw this trailer. Absolutely loved it. This has been one of my most anticipated movies because I like these kinds of sports films. Warrior is one of my favorite movies of all time, and so I was hoping it would kind of be like that with this transformative performance from The Rock. That's what everyone was hyping up. Is he Oscar-worthy? Is this movie a little disappointing? Maybe. Maybe.
A round of applause for Mark Kerr.
Hello, and thank you to everyone for allowing me to be here today.
The plot is very simple. It's based around the life of mixed martial arts and UFC champion Mark Kerr. It takes place from 1997, I believe, to 2000, and it covers his rise through the MMA world that's unfortunately derailed by opioid abuse and a toxic relationship that we'll talk about. Emily Blunt's in this film as well. But we have to start with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and this is a guy who has been consistently putting in performances that appeal to the masses, but they've never really conveyed that Dwayne Johnson can act. And I use that word in quotations as I push up my glasses on my nose.
Nerd alert!
I've known this guy's had it in him for quite some time, but he's not even really had the Dave Bautista role. Bautista's had a couple of smaller performances, I think of Blade Runner and a few of those that have shown us he can do it, and he can manage putting in a great performance alongside other great actors. And we've seen shades from The Rock. I go to some of his earlier work. I go to Pain and Gain, just these random movies that you wouldn't think the guy can put in a pretty good performance, and he does. But then obviously you've got the blockbuster side of Dwayne Johnson. Your Rampages, your... what was the one with the city falling?
Just shut up, you idiot!
Black Adam, and look, I was excited for that too, but I think that entire thing put it into perspective for The Rock, and he sat back and said, I want to prove that I can do this, but I don't just want to do it on a whim. I want to pair myself with a really good director, in this case, Benny Safdie. We've seen the Safdie brothers work. We know they can do it together. We don't know if Benny Safdie can do it by himself, and we're getting both examples this year. I'm very excited for Marty Supreme, but I saw this trailer, somewhat knew of Mark Kerr, but didn't entirely know the story. You pair The Rock up with Emily Blunt, and all of that came together to ultimately make for a movie that did not reach its full potential for me. And I'll get into the details as of why. But a performance that did everything I wanted it to do and more. I'm not going to say he solely carries this film on his shoulders. There are some others that are great as well. Emily Blunt is great, even though her character is somewhat of a walking cliche throughout the entire thing. But you have a guy who's already a physical specimen. So you're thinking, how is he going to transform himself? He's still big. He's still muscular. Okay. But if you actually look at what he did to his body here, it's not the same kind of big he's been before. His body actually looks very different. And I was paying attention. I'm sitting in the movie theater. I got my monocle. I'm like, oh, look at that vein. Then you got the makeup and the prosthetics. And don't tell me that that doesn't do anything for these actors taking on these roles like this. As subtle as it is, at least to some, I've seen people on Twitter say, it doesn't look that different. I disagree. I think the prosthetics are noticeable, not in that way, but just knowing it's The Rock behind that and then seeing what he's putting on display here. And part of me could still kind of feel the charisma shining through, and that's not a bad thing. The Rock has always been a very charismatic guy. I just didn't know if he could be a charismatic actor that could take it to the next level, that could showcase emotional depth, that could most importantly show nuance and restraint. That was my fear going in here. I'm like, I want to see The Rock play a vulnerable character, kind of get sucked into a role to where his eyes and his lip movements and certain quivers and the things that he has his body doing that are consistent all throughout the entire movie. And I don't know exactly the quirks of Mark Kerr. I've not watched him that much in real life, but just seeing what The Rock's doing in this movie, you can tell he's going for something, and it's working, and he's drawing you in. And at first, admittedly, I did see The Rock, but as the movie goes, I kind of forgot it was The Rock, and that's really the first time I felt that way. And so everything he needed to do, he did, and it's actually a tough race for Best Actor this year, but I could see him sliding into the 5 spot, and I want him to. I'm rooting for him. I'm not complaining that The Rock's going for it. If anything, I'm complaining that the movie itself doesn't quite live up to the performance that he gives. And that's where I want to head next, because I was so pumped. I'm making Warrior comparisons. I love Creed. I love UFC. And this is really kind of the early stages of UFC. Not even that, right? We're in another country, this thing called Pride, and it's like a different version altogether. The rules are different, but you're seeing the rise of MMA as a whole. And Mark Kerr, kind of being the guy at the beginning of the film, hadn't lost a fight and doesn't know what it means to lose. And that's one thing that I'm seeing some people miss with this film when they're talking about, what was this movie actually about? Well, I actually think it's really obvious what this movie is about, or at least what it's trying to be. What my issues are throughout is that it's missing that connective tissue, connecting all of these beautiful moments to each other. There's not really a through line in this movie. We are in the midst of this moment, in the midst of this scene or sequence, in this beautiful tender moment between Blunt and Johnson's character, but then you have this rage and this anger between the two, and you see how this is such a toxic relationship between the two. I mean, it's two people that should not be together, but consistently are, and so that makes for just a lot of this, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, I'm glad I didn't end up with my ex, because it would have been that. Shout out to my ex. Damn! Then you got the substance abuse side of things, and you see Kerr, how he's handling all of this and trying to make that pain go away, but he's keeping it all to himself. He's very selfish with how he handles all of this internal conflict, and I'm talking to the person that he loves or that loves him. But at the same time, we see and feel all of these moments between the two, but then we get other shades of things happening in the background. At one point, she says, he was out partying and doing some drugs, doing some crazy things, but we never get to see it. And so there were so many moments left out. And I love when a movie shows you, doesn't tell you, but this movie kind of tells you, doesn't do as much showing you. I don't feel like this fits into the same series of cliches we always see in sports movies, which is good. But at the same time, if you start presenting these ideas and telling us about things that Kerr is doing to prevent him from being his best in the ring, I want to see that. And there were so many times where I didn't get to see that. And so many times where we're, going right into a match, seeing the fight immediately. We don't get build up. We don't maybe in the moment realize how important this fight is about to be, or we don't feel like how big this moment is in Kerr's life until after it happens, because we're just thrown into it. Ryan Bader plays Mark Coleman. Bader, not an actor, but a fighter. But my God, I actually thought he did a wonderful job. That friendship relationship is really special. And there were times where I'm looking at Mark and I'm like, yeah, I love Mark, but I want to know more about Mark. You know what I mean? Like, this other guy and kind of what he's going through, especially towards the end of this movie, was just as fascinating, just as interesting, and you get hints of that, but he's a guy that I wanted to see way more of, and I feel like if this movie was handled or maybe structured in a different way, you could have really built that up to where the end of this film would have been so much more impactful, and I hate to keep going back to a film like Warrior because they're so different. One's a Safdie movie, but at the same time, you could have had something happen in there that could have just fully swept me off my feet. And I do appreciate Safdie's approach of just playing it very simple, easy, nonchalant, almost. This movie's vibe is not even remotely as tough as its exterior and what you think it's going to be with a hardcore fight movie. And that's not to say the fight sequences are really good inside the ring. Very close up, you got that shaky cam style. You've got a very Safdie Brothers type approach, even though it's just one of them. I do want to give credit, though, to the look and feel, the overall vibe of this movie, the way it is shot. Again, that shakiness is going to get to some people, but I like that. It makes you feel more like you are a part of that experience. I enjoyed the score. I've heard some people complain about the score. I actually quite enjoyed it. And again, with Emily Blunt's Dawn, I feel as if she's giving a great performance, but her character is written in a way that only serves one real purpose all throughout this movie. And it's very, one note in how it's handling that. And so I'd say she is as good as you expect, but she's a little shortchanged within the writing, as is just, again, the cohesion of this film as a whole. And by the time we got to the end, there was no real build-up. It just kind of ends, and I'm left thinking, I'm not left thinking, what was the point? Because I get the point, but I was left thinking, I just wish there was more of a flow of an actual movie here, and that would have really kind of nailed home some of those things that they're going for, specifically with how Kerr is handling all of this happening in his life, and the idea that he may not be what he once was, and he believes in himself in such a strong way, but at the same time, he's questioning, don't want to dive into details, but what happens towards the beginning of the film. And so this review means nothing without your all's thoughts and responses down below. Do you believe that The Rock is as transformative as people are saying? Again, I think it goes far beyond just looking very different. It's capturing those nuances. What is your favorite Safdie or Safdies brother movie? Leave a like, share this video, all those things. Let's score this thing. I hope I didn't sound too negative, because Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson absolutely electrifies in The Smashing Machine, nailing every subtle beat as a soft-spoken fighter teetering on the edge of desperation. His layered performance features a surprising amount of nuance, yet this script's unconventional approach often keeps it at arm's length. The film is missing a cohesive thread to tie its beautifully made scenes together. I mean, look, it's an engaging experience, for sure, the way that this is crafted together, but it leaves some meat on the bone that I, as someone who's interested in this, really wanted a bit more of. And so that's how I feel about The Smashing Machine. I only did this review so I could do that voice. Thanks for watching Smashing. All right, I'm done.